Hey guys, and in this video I just want to talk about and give you a quick example of how you can use PHP based user agent detection to serve different assets to different devices in your web designs. Now, unless you've been living under a rock in the web design world recently, you've probably heard of this term responsive web design, and that is quite simply the idea that web interfaces should respond to the environment and to the use case that they find themselves in. The user shouldn't have to adapt their usage patterns to them. The interface should adapt for them. So, although certainly not exclusively, one of the most quintessential ways that is applied is for mobile devices. So we might say there's something called CSS media queries we can use along with fluid web design, and we might say when the browser gets down to any size below 500 pixels, apply these CSS properties to make it look like a mobile interface. That's great and it's really useful, but it only deals with half the story when it comes to mobile design. If you think about the fact that when on a mobile device, your pictures are probably going to be smaller in dimensions than when you're on a desktop device, because there just isn't enough screen size to show it. Even on the Galaxy Note 2 5.5 inch display devices like that, there just isn't enough space to practically show the sort of images that you'd show on a desktop. So what we sometimes do is shrink them down. We say to the images, alright, only set your width to only what's the maximum the screen can display, and that shrinks the image down to fit on the device nicely. But then what about the fact that we've downloaded all that extra image data, we've spent all that time and expended the user's data downloading all that extra image data that we never actually used. So wouldn't it be better to do a server-side detection, try to figure out whether on a mobile device or on a desktop device, and try and figure out which image to serve them before their device goes for all the trouble of downloading all that extra data that it may not need. Now, there are some JavaScript technologies that allow you to do this. Things like Modernizer are similar to what we're talking about. And what they do is, when the page loads, they say, okay, if I'm on a mobile browser, do this. If I'm not, do this. The problem with that is by the time JavaScript loads, a lot of assets on the page have already loaded. So in terms of saving file transfer, saving time in that way, JavaScript probably isn't going to help us too much. We need something to run on the server that can figure all this stuff out before the page even gets to the user. So that's what we're gonna look at. This sort of idea of combining what we'd traditionally think of as responsive design with server-side user agent detection was sort of pioneered, or I don't want to say pioneered, but in a large part by Luke Wroblewski. He writes a ton of stuff about mobile design. He came up with this acronym of REST, combining responsive design with server-side components. And using server-side user agent detection is frowned upon in some areas of the web design community. But like I just said, responsive design on its own, well, it's a good thing to do. We should certainly be doing that. Isn't enough on its own. So that's what this REST process is talking about. Let's talk about why some people frown on user agent detection. That and it first requires that we first understand a little bit about what user agent detection is. Most of us know that when we access websites, we're using something called HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and one of the headers or bits of data that gets sent when we do a web request, either to the server or from the server, when we use that protocol, is something called a header. And one of those headers that we can get access to is something called a user agent string, and that's sent to the server from the computer that's making a request when the request is made, and that tells the server a bunch of data about the user's operating system, what browser they're using, what operating system they're using, and things of that nature. We can leverage that in making decisions about what to serve. What's the problem with that? Well, so many devices have very different user agent strings. So if we, for example, wanted to target all mobile devices, we would have to take account of the iPhone's user agent string, all the hundreds or maybe even thousands of Android devices, their user agent strings, and every time a device changes or a new device comes out, a manufacturer can choose to put a slightly different user agent string, which isn't going to match the user agent strings that we've catered for. So it can be quite a hard process to maintain. Whereas if we look at CSS-based design, there's a universal standard for how to implement media queries, and it's nothing specific to devices. It's normally just the width of the screen. So we can say if the width of the screen is lower than a certain amount, do all this stuff. So it's a standardized procedure where we don't have to worry about all that. But like we said, the best approach is probably a combinationary one. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the example we're actually going to be using. I've just created this basic layout here, and the image is what we're particularly concerned with. What we want to do is swap out a different image, one for desktop and one for mobile devices. We notice that if I scale down this browser window at the moment, we get a nice mobile layout. The sidebar moves to the bottom. The text gets slightly smaller. With the imagery size is to only be as wide as it needs to be, and the navigation changes a little bit, and it's just a nice layout. If we look in, if we just expand the width of the browser window a bit again, one option we have as part of a lot of browser developer tools, and Chrome certainly has them here, is when you load a page, you can look at how much is being loaded, so and how long it takes. So let's do that. I'm going to open the network tab in Chrome Web Inspector and then refresh the page. If we see what that gave us. Go back to our developer tools here. We see that we downloaded 229 kilobytes worth of image. Now, that doesn't sound so bad for a big desktop image like this, but if I resize this browser window to get into our mobile layout, where we don't need as big of an image, and actually it gets resized to fit on anyway. If we now do the same and refresh our page, we noticed that even though we're only ever going to be showing them this smaller thing this smaller version in our desktop design, in our mobile design, we're still loading them the same amount of data, 229 kilobytes. So they're still having to wait the same amount of time and use the same amount of data as a desktop device would when they're not. There's no way they can benefit from the increase in size. Once again, with this, we're not taking away any functionality, because that's an important aspect of mobile design. We're just restructuring the functionality. So some people might say it's not good to let them not have the larger image, but by serving them a smaller image file, we wouldn't be losing them any functionality. We're just making it a bit more practical for them. So it's definitely a good thing to do. So with that our example over how are we going to do this user agent detection? Well, first of all, what I thought I'd do is just give you a quick understanding, if you will, of what happens when we get into this media query. So here in this app media query, it's saying we only want these properties to apply at the maximum width of 500 pixels. So if the browser window is any bigger than 500 pixels, we don't want these to apply. So we just get rid of the float, so the sidebar goes down below, doesn't hang out on the side. We reduce the paddings a bit. We turn off the hover transitions on the links, because that can be a bit of a battery suck on mobile devices. But that's pretty much it. Nothing significant to report in the CSS hit. So if we go back over to HTML, how are we going to leverage this user agent string to do what we want to do? Well, let's first take a look at the situation we're in. As far as that image, the thing we want to swap out is in a location called images slash desktop.png, and if we look at that location, I've created two images, one for our mobile design and one for our desktop design. This is another criticism of the user agent detection type approach, because if you're going to do this, we have to create a set of images for mobile and a set of images for desktop. But in our desktop user interface, it just resizes, and we don't have to think about it. The desktop one just resizes. Anyway, in the same folder as our desktop image, we've also got a mobile image, and if you look over here, it's approximately half the size. So that's the lay of the land. So in our specific circumstance, all we need to do is figure out which user agent we're looking at and switch out this word. It's either desktop or mobile to complete the file path, depending on which situation we are in. But the first thing we need to do is get hold of the user agent string. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm using PHP right now as my server-side language of choice. So how do we do that in PHP? Well, it's very very simple actually. All we need to do is access the global server array, and this gives us data about the server on and the request that's been made, and what key in that array do we want to access? Well, it's called pretty sensibly the HTTP user agent. To make that bit simpler for myself, just so I don't have to type that out every time, let's put that in a variable called browser. So anytime I type the word browser, it just translates into what was stored for that user agent string, so that we can look at what a user agent string looks like. Let's just echo that out right at the top of the page. Echo browser. If we save that and refresh over here, we get this big long string of text up here, and as we see, it gives me access to a whole bunch of user data. It tells me I'm on a Macintosh, what operating system I'm on, even what version of the operating system I'm on. It tells me crucially for what we're going to be doing, what web rendering engine I'm using, what browser I'm using, what version of the browser I'm using, so we can leverage all that information. Before we go any further, now is probably a good time for me to show you one of the other pitfalls of user agent detection. It's not just that there were so many user agent strings, so it's impractical to update. It's also that user agent strings can be spoofed. So, for example, in Chrome that I'm using as my example, I can go into the web inspector. Not that. The web inspector. And under the configuration options here in this particular browser, I can go into what is called an override section. I can basically override the signals that this computer is sending out to servers. So I can say user agent and look at all the user agents that can be chosen here. So apart from my default user agent, I can choose to spoof my user agent, basically to look like all those other browsers there, and there are a million more user agents. Those are just the ones that Chrome offers you the capability to spoof. So I can say, for example, I'm on an iPhone, and because like we said, server-side code executes when the page loads. If we now go over and refresh the page, our PHP is returning that we're on an iPhone. And actually, when we show it working, I'm gonna spoof the user agent string, so I can show you on this desktop computer what it would look like on a mobile device. So basically, the moral of the story here is that user agent strings can be spoofed. It's not a foolproof way, but it's a good way to add some extra functionality and sort of just make some assumptions that'll hopefully be helpful to your users. So we've seen the user agent string, but just having it printed up there isn't very useful. How are we actually going to use it in our context? Well, if we think about what we actually want to do here, what we want to do is complete that image path with either the word desktop or the word mobile pursuant to our file names, depending on what type of device we're using. Now, because of the massive variety of user agent strings, I'm just going to, for this video, pretend that iPhone is synonymous with mobile. I know it isn't, but that's with the user agent strings because of the vast array of ones that are available. It's difficult to cater for all of them. So that's what we're going to do in this particular case. Anyway, so we're gonna run some PHP at this point. And in that PHP, what we basically want to do, if you think about it, is we want to check if the user agent string matches what we expect the iPhone user agent string to be, and if it does, we want to serve them the mobile image, and if it doesn't, we want to send them the desktop image. So when there's two conditions in something like that in PHP, that's ideal for an if statement. So I'm going to say if, and here's what I basically want to say, because we cached our user agent string in a variable called browser, so it's equal to browser. So what we're trying to say when you think about it is if browser exactly equals, and that's what the double equals means. iPhone. What do we want to do then? Well, we want to load the mobile image, so we want to finish the file name and print the word mobile there, because it's the other part of the file name. Otherwise, so that's our else statement. We want to print desktop, because our other file is called desktop.png, and we've left the PNG just written normal, so it's either going to evaluate to images / desktop.png or images / mobile.png. We've just said if browser equals iPhone. Now, if we look at this, how complicated these user agent strings can be, it doesn't just say this string doesn't just mean iPhone, it has a whole bunch of other data in it. So if we say if browser equals iPhone, even with the iPhone user agent string, it's never going to evaluate to that. One thing we could do is say if browser exactly equals this whole string, then do that. Or we could just, but that also has the version number in it. So we want if we want to target all iPhones, we have to think of something that's common to all iPhones. So what from doing my research, one thing that's common to all iPhones in the user agent string is the word iPhone. If we, for example, wanted to target another device, I'll just show you this. For example, if you want to target an Android device, it seems like all Android devices contain the word Android somewhere in the user agent string, so we can search for that. So you basically have to look at the user agent string and look at what part is you want to pull out. So we've decided we can't say if browser equals iPhone. What do we want to do? Well, it turns out we're to do something very different than that. To check part of a string, what we need to do is first, to make this simpler, we're gonna say evaluate the string after it's been moved to lowercase, just so that we know everything's in lowercase programmatically that's easier. So it's now going to check the lowercase version, but even that's not really going to fit the bill. So well, because obviously there's more than just the word iPhone in the user agent string as we've just seen. So what do we want to do? Well, we know the word iPhone will be somewhere in the iPhone user agent string. Or if you're doing this for Android, you will know the word Android will be somewhere in the user agent string. What you have to do is find some commonality between what the user agent string is, the device you want to target. So because this interface is for iPhone, we want to say if the user agent string equals iPhone, then for that device. So how do we find? How do we in PHP find if part of a string is equal? Well, we're not going to say equals to anymore, because what we're going to use is going to use slightly different architecture. So we're gonna what we're ultimately going to do is evaluate our lowercase string against another function called strpos string position, and that's going to take our lowercase string that we made as the first value, but then it's going to it will to take another parameter of what string do we want to find. Well, we want to find the string of iPhone. Now, what's handy about this particular function in PHP is that while it's going to return to us is an integer of where it found that string relative to the whole string of the user agent string. But if it doesn't find the string iPhone at all, it's just going to evaluate to false. So we can assume if it doesn't evaluate to false, it did indeed find the iPhone user agent string, and we can assume we're on an iPhone. So I was squaring the brackets for that one, but hopefully it's alright. So if we save, and we go and refresh our page over here, we're still on the iPhone user agent string. So if we refresh this, our logic should run, and it should serve us the iPhone friendly image. So let's hit refresh, and I made an error. So I'm just gonna come back when I figure out what this is. Hey guys, I'm back. Very easy fix. I just omitted to put semicolons on the end of both commands here. You probably were all screaming at the screen about that, but I fixed it. So we refresh the page, and remember, I never got rid of the iPhone user agent string. So if we go and inspect the settlement, you see I'm still on the iPhone user agent. I'm still on the iPhone user agent string. So if we look at the markup that's being generated, we are indeed linking to the mobile version, and more importantly, where we started this off. If we go over to the network tab, because the iPhone user agent string is issued on an iPhone, we're loading a smaller image, and it is indeed much smaller. So we've done what we set out to achieve. just to test it the other way, I'm now going to remove the iPhone user agent string, so we no longer think we're on an iPhone, and just see if it works the other way around as it should do. So I'm going to just go back to my regular user agent. Refresh the page, and you can just see by eye that we got the larger image there. But I'll just prove it to you. It does indeed say desktop over here, and we're loading. And if we go over into our network tab again, we're loading the larger, high quality image. So we've set out what we came to do. We're loading one image for one person and one image for another person. So that's it really. That's all I wanted to show you in this incredibly long video. I'm sorry it was so long. If you stay this long, we may as well, and I may as well just give you another example of where this might be useful. If we weren't, we could apply the same logic to anything we want to do based on the user agent. And one thing you might want to do, see on a lot of websites, is automatically redirect if someone comes on an iPhone or whatever device you're targeting the user agent string for. You might want to say, if the user comes on this device, don't even show them their regular desktop version. Just redirect them to another URL altogether. So if we could do that by before the HTML for this page even loads. So I go up here and we paste the same logic that we used for user agent detection before. We can apply the same logic to send someone straight to a mobile view. And this time it's going to be if the user agent string that you found equaled iPhone, then don't even bother loading the rest of this page. Just send the header around back to the server and tell it to relocate the user to our domain /iPhone / whatever they're on. So we're going to say send them a location header. That's basically telling them where to go. And what value do we want to send them to? Well, we want to send them to /iPhone / to come out of /iPhone / whatever URL they were already going to. And this is how we can get that with PHP, just by doing accessing the global server array again, and just saying request URI, basically what page they're on when this was sent from. So it's gonna redirect them to the website name / iPhone / whatever page they were trying to go to. And obviously this is assuming you have a different template for iPhone users, but this is just a good example of how some websites redirect just to an iPhone specific version. As soon as you access the page, this is how they do that. So that's that. If we save that, and we're now, I think we're using the desktop user agent string. So if we refresh, maybe not. I made another error, it looks like. We need to, that's why we need to cater for whatever other situation is happening here. So I'm just gonna say, if there's any other circumstance, we just want to load the regular desktop version. So I'm just gonna close that there, and now if we refresh the page, we should just get sent to our regular desktop version. Maybe not. So we're at our desktop version, but if we spoof the iPhone user agent string, and we refresh the page, because obviously that's when the user agent string gets sent. We should get sent to a specific page with the word iPhone after the URL. So if I refresh, we do. Obviously that page doesn't exist because I don't have a set of iPhone specific templates. But if you wanted to redirect someone to a specific page, that's just how you do it. So that was a lot of information. Very, very long video. We're at let me just look. We're at 39 minutes now. Very, very long. Anyone who stayed for this long, thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And obviously you can skip through different parts of this video. I know there was a lot of information. I've just bought this new screen recording software, ScreenFlow 4, and I just recently upgraded the macOS 10 mounting lion. I know it's been out for like 6 months, but I just finally sumped up the cash to upgrade. So with me having to buy that new screen recording software because my old one didn't work on mounting lion, I'm gonna be doing a lot of videos in the near future to make sure I get money's worth out of it. I know I haven't done many videos recently, but that's because I've been super busy, and that doesn't show any signs of changing anytime soon. But because I've bought the software, I'll be spending a lot of time with it. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. You can visit my website. There's a link down below, www.tom-rogers.com. Mostly web design content over there, so if you like this, you'll probably like that. And I think that's all, guys. And until the next time, which hopefully won't be too long, because the last time was ridiculously long. It's like 3 months since I last did a video, and I shot the takes for this video about a million times, so that's how it ended up being so long. Anyway, I'm gonna stop blabbering. Hope it's not too long until I see you in the next video, but I'll see you then. Bye bye.